Testing for YouTube. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, welcome everyone. We will call to order our Committee of the Whole meeting. And we'll start by recognizing and acknowledging that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sechot and Hubachesit First Nations. Council, we do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items? Seeing none, any late items from our corporate officer?
No late items, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Adoption of minutes. We have minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting held at 6 p.m. on March 16th, 2026 as presented. Move to adopt by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. That brings us to public input period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address council. A maximum of 6 speakers for up to 5 minutes each can be accommodated. And for anyone online wishing to participate remotely, just use the raise your hand feature. And at the back of the room, come on forward, Paul.
Need to push a button here. Red button is on. I didn't bring my glasses, but I'd like to congratulate Charles for the trophy first off. I don't know what's going on there, but congratulations. I appreciate every one of you sitting here. You know that, I've said it before. It's a thankless job at times, I know that. And you know why I'm here. It's about the fees on the fields. There's 4 slow pitch leagues in Port Alberni. They're all going to be affected by this. The $18.75 an hour, I just don't understand it. I know the city's always looking for more money and we need more money for expenses. I get that. Between the 4 leagues, I think it'll cost about 10 grand. I'm just guesstimating. What is the goal? How much money is the city really looking to raise for charging young adults to be out there active on the fields? Like, I don't know what the number is. Is it 20 grand? Is it 25 grand? We had a fantastic board meeting last week and I approached the board and I said, look, let's donate all the money to all the user groups instead of giving to the charities we give to every year. Read and Feed, CMHA, you know who we donate to. I got voted down. And I was kind of doing it sarcastically. Like I know we support the people we give to. The previous parks director was trying this in 2019. I stated it before. And I quote, she said, "We need to be aligned with other similar communities and get away from the notion of free fields and hoping to get donations for fields and maintenance from other user groups. We've always given money back, not every year, but I know a lot of people have given tens of thousands of dollars and in-kind donations to Lower Field, Sweeney. Dan Goddard would know everything about it. Michael Donovan knows quite a bit about the history of it all. But COVID put a stop to all this pay-to-play. I met with Shari and, you know, the recently left Willa. Now we hear there's 50% of the fees are going to go towards field maintenance and 50% is going to go towards general revenue or implementing these fees. We don't know. If it was going to be a fee, I wish it would hopefully it would go towards the fields because they do need work and we know that. That's why you're charging more money or to pay to play. I then suggested to the board that we at least cover the Sunday League. The Sunday Slow Pitch League started in 1981. And out of that came the Okie Dokie tournament, which is still going, and Fantastic. And the other 4 leagues have all kind of spun off out of that league. I got voted down again, and that would have been about maybe 7 grand. You know, in closing, I just made a few notes. You know, there are families out there. I see this last week or 2, there's been people out playing slow pitch. The East Indian guys playing cricket. That's so cool. I mean, are they going to get charged? Do they have to call? Is there going to be a sign on the field that says 1-800 pay to play? I hope not. Like I said before, today it's a nickel, tomorrow it'll be a dime, and then a quarter. And then, you know, we know everything costs more, but activity, I'm reading it right there on the wall. It's just so nice to see. Please, is there no other way we can find these funds somewhere? Save on something, a lawnmower, a truck for the city, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. For the 20 or 30K, there's got to be someone here that knows the number that, you know, is anticipated in revenue. I'm sure Willa did her homework. You know, please, let's try and find a way. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the comments. I just want to say, I know that this is a topic we have talked a lot about over the years, and even like for council to get to the decision that we did make around the fees and charges bylaw, I think took like 4 committees of the whole and back to council and back to committee of the whole and so on over the course of a couple of years. So we don't take these decisions lightly, and really do appreciate your comments and do recognize that it may not be the only way. There might be other more creative ways to get to what we're ultimately trying to get to, which is ensuring that that we do have funds, obviously, ongoing and into the future to improve the fields. I will say, just, you know, as one kind of additional comment here, that a big part of the challenge that we did run into when we were making this decision was around city taxpayers covering the cost of the fields when we're not getting, and covering the cost of the fields that are used by Alberni Valley taxpayers who aren't contributing. What we ultimately came up with is not a perfect system. I will totally acknowledge that. But we're in a challenging dynamic because there is quite a tax discrepancy between the city of Port Alberni and the rural areas. But we all access the fields. We all, you know, and certainly fields are just one example. So I take your comments, and it's something that I think we'll continue to give thought to. And if there are ideas on other, you know, opportunities, then would love to have that conversation with you. And we could do that here, or we can, you know, do that offline as well.
Well, like Willa said, you know, like similar communities, Port Alberni's in tough times right now. You guys know more than anybody here what we're going through socially with, you know, I don't need to talk about it. But I'm just hoping you'd listen, and thanks for your time. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, come on forward.
Hi. I don't know how I'm supposed to say this, Madam Mayor, councilors. My name is Brent Browning. I just joined the Industrial Heritage Society this year. I just moved back to town. We've been retired and holidaying for 10 years. And I just wanted to make something clear I don't understand. I've heard a lot of rumors about the arena that's down there, that it's supposed to be tore down, that the city has that in their plan to tear it down. Is that true? And if it is, when is it?
We have a future dated item in our 5-year financial plan to relook at it. And we did make it clear at the time that we put that in our financial plan that it is not a plan to demolish at this point, even though it is indicated in that way. We've made a commitment to the Industrial Heritage Group to work with them on alternative options for that space. And that work is underway with staff and the group. There's not a decision to demolish it at this time.
Good, thanks. Second on my agenda is McLean's Mill. What's going to happen with McLean's Mill? Right now, there's nobody managing it. I don't know that there's anybody going to manage it this summer. It looks like Chambers pulled out. So it's a valuable resource, and all I see happening is the city, through management, is mismanaging it. In other words, it's going down every day. It's getting to be less and less valuable because it's rotting into the ground. Is there a plan?
The Chamber is managing McLean Mill this year, and they gave us, I think, a year notice or 6 months notice, so they are carrying it through the summer on the contract that we have with them. And the plan is to go out for proposals and look for a new operator once the city does some internal looking at options. So it's certainly not forgotten, and we do have some time before we have to make an alternative plan for it.
6 months?
I can't recall exactly.
That's what I read is
End
6
of the
months
year.
they've committed to. And
Sounds like it's the end of this year.
okay, number 3, how many am allowed here?
Well, technically, we don't do questions, but because you don't come to council very often, we try to be flexible with people. So up to 5 minutes, but you're welcome to ask a couple questions and we'll answer them if we're
This
able.
is my last question. I asked Tom about it last time, and he says it's to protect you guys from us, is basically what it's there for. It's very invasive. I know it's supposed to look nice, but it doesn't feel like we're in this together. It feels like we're separated from you by this big barrier. My feeling right away, that's all I'm saying. I really don't think you need that, my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public? Mr. Anderson.
I wanted to speak briefly in little bits and pieces on the motion that's going to be addressed later on today and referred, I believe, to City Council, yourselves, and the notice of motion by Councillor Mealy. Amendment procedures and bylaws, I believe it's 5938, but I may be out by 1 or 2. There's a few there. The amendment reads, council or committee may ask for or answer questions during public input period of a member of public who is addressing the committee. But the committee must not enter into a debate. Now I didn't realize until recently that that is actually part of the current language. And a bit of a surprise in the respect that I brought it up numerous times, and there's been various responses back, sorry. And if I can refer to one before I get on, I've got to rush through this. When this first started, the rules, and it was by Mayor Douglas, and I remember him joking with me, is that the only thing that I did right? A while back, which I, of course, wasn't. I supported him quite a bit. And at that time, it came out that the public could talk about anything they wished. And the response expected from council was, and I remember this so clearly, because of the dialogue with Mayor Douglas, is council would listen, they wouldn't accept the questions, or they wouldn't put input. Now, there was a downfall to that I recognized afterwards, that when people, but that's the way that it originally, now it's changed to what it is now, and I don't remember the changes happening. And I'm not sure it's because I don't pay attention, or we don't get the information in a manner that remains in the minds of the public. But I can refer to, without my glasses, an email from Sherry Minions, Mayor Minions. For clarity, there is no time restriction on question period. There's a time limit on public input period where we recently increased from 3 to 5 minutes. Typically, council does not respond to questions during public input period, which he verified today as well. The intent of this time is for the public to speak and the council to listen. So I have a bit of concerns regarding the changes coming to the city's apparently writing up a formal document that is going to get us deeper into some problem. So that is talking about the right, and it's already in writing, that to answer questions and ask questions and get into sort of responses to what's being said. That's conducive to one thing that stands out to me. It's conducive to, it's a manner of debate. When you start asking questions of what the public has to say, it's not always the right. Maybe some people are, I don't know. But the thing is, they're making a talk on information that's available to them. They don't have all the information that council has. So they may state a process they think you should maybe work towards, but they haven't got all the information. And so I agree that there should be language in there, thanks to Councillor Milley for bringing this, that addresses an opportunity for council to say, but limited, and this is not going to be limited the way I'm seeing it, limited to stating that you're misinformed for this reason, and it's to both parties' advantage to point out what they haven't heard and what they should know, and they might change their mind. That doesn't always happen. But they're not always up and voicing an opinion because they don't agree with you. They don't have all the information to say, yes, it's a good idea. So I have a problem with the wording of that I think is going to come out here. Now this notice of motion partly, and I say partly, resulted from my attempt to call point of order when a councillor decided to speak as a member of the public. The councillor was clearly out of order, violating the past rules. I'm not going as far back as I was. And I was told that the public could not call point of order. It doesn't say that unless there's other information I'd like to know in their rules of order. only council can call a point of order. My mic was shut off, and I was told to sit down. Mayor then allowed this same councillor to finish his speech, which was out of order and under public input period. Now, not one council member, after I was told I couldn't call a point of order when I saw you breaking your own real rules, excuse me, but every council member could have done this. Not one council member called him out of order. In fact, Mayor Minions went and gave the councillor an extra time to finish what he had to say. So she invited him to continue breaking the order. And Councillor Mealy came up with this motion, which was good and bad. And also Councillor Petola has mentioned this many times, there has to be a system set up so when someone is misdirected in how they think something is being done, they should be able to find the information out that may show that, oh, I didn't look at it that way, I didn't know this. That's a process that was missing from Councillor Douglas' presentation. I recognize that. And I was hoping that this motion that was brought forward by Councillor Mealy would address these two issues without creating a situation where a speaker gets up here, speaks their mind on an issue, it may be a very legitimate opinion. And for people to consider and listen, you don't have to agree. And then council gets up after, as a separate part of the meeting, and has their responses, which could just blow the speaker right out of. It's not the fair debate, because I'm sure we wouldn't be able to get up and point out what we disagreed with any council member that got up under the new rule. We just have to accept it. That is not public input. You don't have to agree with public input, but we should be able to tell why they're wrong. I don't know if I'm sort of agreeing with you, Councillor Petola, and yet I'm saying that there's major concerns on the asking questions. And comments, because that in itself can change the public's viewpoints on whether the council is moving in the right direction or not. That's not what the public input period was about. It's to generate the interest in the public to say, I've got another idea. And if they're missing information, make a rule that says we will provide you that information. Asking questions and et cetera, and giving answers to what they talked about is not appropriate. You're taking a little bit away every time, so the public has very little input into the council meetings. I had a lot more to say, but I get confused. I'm not going to do it right now, but so I'm looking forward to the report from city staff and that they address some of the comments I'm trying to make. Because I see faults in the way it was working. That Councillor Douglas set up was too lenient as far as correcting people who didn't understand. We all do it, especially the public. We can't follow everything, but also that you don't have control, and you allow the public and the person to extend a point of view and have it considered, not getting feedback to sort of put them down. Not making it clear and getting that way. So that's as far as I'm going to go on that. Was another point. On the point of order, looking at the point of order in their bylaws, and I'll ask this privately because I don't see the language that I was told when I brought this forward. I don't see any language that says public don't have the right to ask that point of order. Anyway, I'll follow that through at a later date. And I might be wrong, but it's not in our constitution. It's not on our bylaws, the way I read it. Anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Yep, come on forward.
As Paul was here earlier, I represent one of the leagues as one of the presidents. We're looking for some sort of cost reduction, other way to manage your guys' decision. We've begged for multiple years about communication between city council, field conditions, how to improve them, how to do donations, sponsors. We've come every angle that we could. I work along a lot of the city workers out there. They're frustrated just as much as we are with the conditions of the fields. There's not the right material on the fields, requiring more maintenance. If the right material was on those fields, it would require less maintenance. So there's a lot of things that we've approached, but always gotten shot down in the past about trying to improve this situation so that we never had to come to this sort of meeting here. And we know how hard it is for you guys to do that. But where was the communication and the invite to the leagues to sit down with you and come up with a proposal that everybody's on board? Because if we were on board, we were informed, we would have the leagues backing it. We could do fundraisers, we could do tournaments, proceeds could go. I actually look back at my memories from COVID, and me and another participant were actually donating $1,000 to Port Alberni Kids Sports. And we're not going to be able to do that now. So who's suffering from those fees? When you say that you're charging for maintenance, you're taking away from someone else's opportunity to play. So there's a big reflection of what we do for the community through these leagues. And by charging in these times, it's going to take away from that. You know, second of all, if you're charging a certain amount and a certain amount is going to other fees or other parts, why not only charge that amount to us? Why is it now we're paying above and beyond to go to other things that aren't what we're using? You know, like, where's the communication between the leagues? Like, if we had some sort of backing from you guys, how can we give our input? What's needed? How can we improve things? None of that was done. And, you know, the morale in the league is that we've been pushed aside for a very long time. Paul runs one of the biggest tournaments on the island, and you know, people come here. We should have great fields. We all know that. So why isn't it possible? You know, there's other improvements that we could do and get this funding from, but there's so many unanswered questions that nobody's happy with it. We're hitting a brick wall. We're just getting, this is what you got and that's it. Is that fair? You know, if someone came up to you guys and said that, how would you feel? Especially when everything in life right now is getting hard. And a lot of these people, they have kids in sports, and now they're getting charged fees and everything else. So now who suffers? Now their kids are going to come first. They're going to be sitting on the sideline. And then that ripple effect through the town, that could do a lot of damage. So that's, I just want to say, I think there should be a communication aboard. You know, we're open to everything, but there's no communication. So without communication, who's representing who? Thanks, guys.
Do you mind just stating your name? Sorry.
Chad Hubbard.
Thank you, just so that we have it. And I just want to, again, thank you for the comments. I'm happy to meet with your group as a starting point as well, if that's helpful, or a couple of representatives from the various leagues that do exist. There was a lot of engagement throughout this process, but it happened over quite a few years. And so I know that when that happens, often it can feel like it came out of nowhere. And, you know, certainly we may not have engaged with everyone. So, you know, appreciate that that's what it's feeling like.
Minor ball, soccer, Sunday league, fall ball league, Wednesday league, you know, men's league, ladies league. You've got all those leagues. Like, it's not that hard to get everybody in a room like you guys do every time. You just have to put an invite to those people. And there's a lot of communication with social media out there that it doesn't take much to get it riled up to be like, hey, there's a meeting. You know how many people are involved in those sports that watch social media? if there was a meeting announced that we had to be to about any of those field conditions, that sort of stuff, and this sort of input where we have to give back, where members were requested, presidents, league representatives, you know, all of that stuff, we would have been here for sure. So going forward, we look forward to that. We'd like to do it as quick as possible so that we can address these situations, so that we can keep your costs and maintenance down without providing a better service, so that we don't have to provide that service with just some common basic knowledge about baseball, you know? So,
Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our first delegation. And our first item today isn't really a delegation, it is a guest that we invited. I will pass it over to Councillor Mealy to introduce.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I do appreciate that. So with us today is a Port Alberni legend. We'll call him that right off the bat. So good to see you, Chaser. So ladies and gentlemen, it is no small feat to compete on the world stage. We are joined here today by an athlete whose recent Paralympic Winter Games performance speaks for itself. Finishing 4th in snowboard cross, narrowly missing a podium placement, and ranking 10th in bank slalom, this young gentleman places this young gentleman among the top Paralympic snowboarders in the world, an accomplishment that brings immense pride to our community. For those who don't know Chase Nicklin, he was born and raised in Port Alberni and continues to call this community home. He is not only an example of the highest level of achievement in world-class sports and athletics, but is an inspiring example of overcoming adversity. At the age of 16, he experienced a life-changing event. Rehabilitation was a tough process, but he soon turned this adversity into achievement and found his way into para snowboarding. Just 2 years later, he won 6 straight medals in the 2023 season at the Europa Cup and North American Cup events, including 4 victories. He then won 2 medals at the Asian Cup and earned 4 more victories at the FIS and Europa Cups the following year. In 2025, he placed 9th in bank slalom and 10th in the snowboard cross at the World Championships. He then raised the bar once again at the 2026 Milano Cortina Paralympics, where he placed 4th in snowboard cross and 10th in bank slalom. Chase, your journey to the Paralympics and your performance there exemplified determination, resilience, and excellence. You have not only represented Canada with distinction, but you've also inspired the residents of Port Alberni and beyond through your commitment to sport and your pursuit of excellence at the highest level. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating our latest Olympian, Mr. Chase Nicklin. Did you want to say something, Chase?
Do you want to come to the microphone at all?
If you want to come to and say something. All right, that's okay. You don't have
No
to,
problem.
but it's absolutely wonderful to have you here, and just we wish you continued success in your athletic pursuits. Look forward to you following your next chapter in your journey. So thank you for coming tonight, Chase.
Yeah, thanks, Chase. Thank you, Councillor Mealy and Chase. We really just wanted to have an opportunity to congratulate you. It's very rare, obviously, that we have people from Port Alberni make it to this level, and we just want you to know how proud the whole community feels. We do have a little congratulations letter for you, and then maybe we'll just take a picture if that works. So, Councillor Mealy, you can come also. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, go ahead. Yes, you can absolutely come to the podium and have additional public input, so come on forward.
Stretch. Thank you, Charles. Thank you for the truck. So I wanted to come here. I'm unprepared. I was going to make notes, but I have one concern and one comment. Well, they're both comments. I'm super concerned with world today and the suffering that goes on. And it seems to me that the governments don't know how to plan, how to deal with the people that are troubled. And I am sincerely sorry for those people that are troubled. There's many reasons. I regret to hear that a lot of people don't like them because they're in the way. And there's tent cities all over. You go to Nanaimo, you go to, I don't know about Parksville, but you go to Victoria, I know there's tent cities. And the troubles there, there's no solution. And I guess maybe every year they pick them up and move them somewhere else where they'll stay for a while. No solution. I really want to thank Port Alberni to look at a step forward in solution with the tiny homes that are on 4th Avenue. That, to me, is a good step forward. And it indicates that good minds think alike. I'm not sure where, Kelowna or somewhere, they do the same thing, and probably Saskatchewan, Alberta, do the same thing. And we can put a study on that. My feeling is that we should have meeting of good minds, each city, to discuss how can we solve this problem. The governments, to me, well, mainly the provincial or federal government is responsible for the well-being of people. And that's what I'm concerned with. I know that we're having difficult times with helping those that are drug-related problems and alcohol-related problems. And there simply probably is no solution for that. But we can help them along. And so what I say, and that's why I'm here, I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to the world, is to organize committees with like-minded thinkers, mayors, councillors, finance directors, city managers, RCMP, health-related people, including psychiatrists and doctors and nurses, to discuss the difficulties that is evident with these people and try to come up with a solution. And our small town has some solutions where the people are fed. They get meals every day. And there's health centers here and there, but a designated health center for closeness to the proximity of the trouble. And oh, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Clifford Charles. I'm retired Coast Guard, retired 20 years. I lived in Bamfield. I live now in Port Alberni. I'm hereditary Tyee of the Uchucklacid tribe in Kildonan and Port Alberni Inlet. So I watched the world go by from my front window on Butte Street. And so that is part of the reason why I'm concerned. And I really have a heartfelt hurt for those guys. On the second subject, I want to talk about making happy. Happiness happens every summer down at Harbour Quay. And I appreciate that it's allowed to happen. The fellow's name is Derek Sean, I think, I'm not sure. But the band plays, and guess who's up dancing? People that are older than me, and they're jiving, and they're having rock and roll, their style from their era. And I really like to see that. And I hope it's allowed to continue. One step further, Port Alberni, let's plan a venue where this can happen, where it's not so overwhelming with the loud music, with the loudspeakers and a stage and some kind of dome stage. Make it fancy, and making it happy for the Port Alberni people, not only people that are older than me, but younger people. And I wanted to say that too. Thank you for listening. I like to babble. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking. Love your idea for Harbour Quay and agree completely. And also thanks for coming and speaking about the challenges that do exist for people who are vulnerable in our community. I think this has been not just this council, but the last few councils in Port Alberni have really tried to be a part of the solution on that. And it's always nice when, we may not get it perfect every time, but it's nice when people come to council and recognize the importance of taking care of those members of our community who are vulnerable and struggling. So thank you. Okay, we will go to our second delegation now. We have the Community Arts Council of the Alberni Valley. Welcome.
There we go. Check, check. Thanks, everyone. I'll just give you a nod for the slides. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Minions, members of the Committee of the Whole. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is James Street, and I'm here on behalf of Alberni Arts, the Community Arts Council of the Alberni Valley. I'm joined by a member of staff and our board as well. Thank you very much. Today, I'm sharing the draft Alberni Arts Strategic Plan for 2026 through to 2029. And how this document supports a vibrant, connected, and economically resilient Port Alberni. It's our roadmap to help strengthen Port Alberni arts and culture as a practical community building tool, and to do it in a way that's financially sustainable and partnership driven. We'll begin by grounding the plan in place and relationships, and I want to acknowledge with gratitude that we are as well on the unceded traditional territories of the Apacheset and Slashat First Nations, who have a deep connection to the broader language and cultural group of the peoples known as the Nuchalnut. This presentation has been shared early for your review, and I'm not here to read each of these slides for you, so you can rest easy there, but you need to buckle up a little bit. We have a few to get through. I want to tell you where Alberni Arts is headed and the four strategic priorities that help us build partnerships, strengthen sustainability, and deliver measurable value for the Alberni Valley. This plan is grounded in respectful relationships. We see reconciliation as not a statement, but as ongoing work, showing up, listening, and co-creating opportunities that reflect this place. This partnership approach shows up throughout the plan. And if you're looking at this slide here, the contents, or under the context of the plan, the background and what we heard a lot through engagement is in the beginning, we touch on the vision, mission, and values and the approach that we did to build that out. A bit of a deeper dive on the four strategic priorities and those related actions. And then I'll focus most of our time on those priorities and those actions where you'll see the partnerships, the sustainability, and the community return. So again, thanks to the Alberni Arts Council board, staff, and the Port Alberni community for their contributions to this plan. My slides are moving slower than yours. There we go. Arts and culture are core community infrastructure, not a nice to have. And on the surface, we talk about arts as something that's nice or some sort of form of entertainment, something for people to do. But the evidence is clear, and it's economic development and community well-being. Arts and culture build belonging, reduce isolation, strengthen volunteerism, and help make communities attractive to residents, visitors, and investment. In other words, arts just aren't on the surface, they're part of the foundation. So what is Alberni Arts' role in that bigger picture? Alberni Arts is a connector and a delivery partner. Across BC, communities are recognizing a practical challenge. Arts and culture need additional and modernized leadership and coordination, especially where resource scarcity, we heard a lot about that today, from any and all funding channels are becoming increasingly limited. This challenge presents arts councils with an opportunity to evolve, to grow into the solution. This requires Alberni Arts, like many others across Canada, to adopt a mandate centered on arts-based community development. We need to move away from colonial frameworks that service narrow scopes, such as visual and applied arts only, and grow into community-driven models that lead cultural development efforts, respond to community priorities, foster artistic vibrancy and diversity, amplify placemaking efforts, and continue to adapt and hold relevance beyond short-term funding windows. A central piece to this adaptation for our organization is working with local government and community partners to deliver cultural development through shared knowledge and resources, collaborative program delivery, and reducing competition amongst ourselves, lost my spot, and expanding our awareness. Partnership is not an add-on for us, so we're here to get things done efficiently, avoid duplication, and extend the impact. We're also modernizing how we operate. We're moving toward a stronger governance model where the board helps to set a strategic direction and staff will execute. So a little bit on the who we are and the practical challenge that's ahead of us here. So Alberni Arts has been serving the Valley since 1965, supporting local artists and making art and culture more accessible. As mentioned, we're in that renewal phase right now, new ways of programming, new collaborations, renewed focus on the community-facing and intergenerational pieces. A big piece of sustainability is identifying the right space and the facility model, one that's going to support our programming and also create earned revenue opportunities. So we're not relying on one fragile funding stream. You know, if we paraphrase that, it's really moving away from the old way that we used to do things that served us well when those conditions allowed for that sort of model. We heard a lot tonight, those conditions are changing. So, next slide, please. So our project background, we brought in a strategic planning consultant to help us strengthen our approach and reflect community needs. The result was a 3-year roadmap, the practical phased designed to match real capacity and build a more resilient organization. 2025 was where we reacted to the challenges that I listed, and the Arts Council, like others, are addressing similar challenges and moving towards something better. The main objective of this plan is to understand where we need to position ourselves. What does the current environment allow us to do, and what are ultimately the needs of our community and of our sector? The work doesn't stop there. The plan doesn't sit on the shelf. Already we've been building out what that means operationally. Note that our rebrand is underway. You can see the pieces on the bottom there. You'll see an evolution from that full legal name to Alberni Arts, a clearer, more welcoming identity that we'll be launching by the end of this year. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this slide is to illustrate that evidence-based approach and the testing with the community. We used the 4 phases with the consultant. We prepared the framework by engaging with contractors and sector partners. We then engaged and assessed by surveying the community, running the numbers, considering the programs and services under the new framework. This needed to tell us what makes sense for us to do or keep doing. Then we had to form and test the updated plan, the mission, the vision, the values. Again, look back and make sure all of that is aligned and look at what that rebrand had to be. Finally, we had to socialize it, meaning that we had to share it broadly. Today is a great example of that, and keep learning from the feedback. As I mentioned before, this isn't a plan that sits on the shelf. This is an evergreen document that we'll use to continue to help the organization adapt. Next slide, please. Community context. This connects our arts and culture strategy to local realities. Who lives here? Why people come and stay. This plan is tailored to the Alberni Valley. Its strong Indigenous presence and leadership, a growing arts and culture scene, a community that's attracting new residents for lifestyle and affordability. Our strategy aims to leverage the demographic composition, the First Nations, long-term residents, new Canadians, those who have recently forged a new life in PA, much like myself. We also see an older population overall, and we want the arts opportunities that are truly intergenerational. Kids, youth, families, and seniors can overlap. We cannot position this as an economic development opportunity without mentioning economic return either. When the arts and culture are more visible and accessible, they better support tourism, neighborhood vitality, and the kind of quality of life that help retain and attract residents. Next slide, please. Almost halfway there, hang on. We use multiple ways to hear from our people: online surveys, a fall fair sticker survey, member roundtables, a Harbour Quay sounding board, and broader consultations. We also reviewed current programming and began strengthening partnerships like early work with the Chamber of Commerce. Next slide, please. Here's what we heard most clearly around programming: spaces, visibility, connections, and partnerships. The 5 themes really came through strongly here. 1, the need for accessible, high-quality events and programming. Not to say that those needs, this one or the ones following, didn't exist before, but we're seeing an increase in the awareness of those needs or the intensity of those needs. Secondly, a growing need for flexible arts and cultural spaces. Looking for greater visibility and promotion for local artists and activities. Number 4, stronger connections across generations, disciplines, and cultures, including Indigenous and traditional arts. And lastly, expanding partnerships with local governments, businesses, and community organizations. We heard a little bit about that tonight too, and just I think the modernization that we need to see with some of our community groups to work together. Next slide, please. Thank you. Way ahead of me. This is our North Star. Our vision is simple. We strengthen the Alberni Valley through diverse arts and culture development, collaboration, and creative community engagement. Our mission is about access, supporting arts and culture in all forms, building connections, hosting events, strengthening communications, and creating social and economic benefits. The 2 big points to take away here are: we're here to help the people participate, and we're here to help the community thrive while we're doing it. Page on our values to explain how we work, not just what we do. Collaborative, connective, inclusive, accessible, intergenerational, dynamic, and sustainable. Council will see these values reflected in our actions going forward, especially around our partnerships, equity and access, and long-term financial stability. Next slide, please. A bit on our brand. This is a quick, warm brand description connected to place and tourism. It's our brand idea, creative by nature. When I say our, I can't take any credit for it. Creative by nature connects creativity to the Alberni Valley's natural beauty and sense of place. It's meant to feel welcoming, modern, and community first. And it helps us to speak consistently to residents, visitors, and partners. I'll move next to the heart of the plan, the 4 strategic priorities. Thank you. There's a little bit of trust because I don't have my other glasses on, but I think we're good. The plan focuses on 4 outcomes: organizational sustainability, opportunity building, communications and brand leadership, and strategic partners in arts advocacy. Together, they're how we will create a sustainable business model and deliver value, socially and economically, through partnerships. Next slide, please. So the first priority, the organizational sustainability. This shows the business side of the plan: governance, staffing, revenue, space, location. Priority 1 is about staying healthy for the long haul. It may not be a secret in some conversations that there's a reason why we're here. Strong governance, stable staffing, and diversified revenue are very important here. This includes building reserve funds, paying competitive wages, strengthening policies and bylaws, and improving operational systems. We see partnerships as a sustainability tool: shared resources, shared delivery, less duplication, less competition. And going forward, we're going to be evaluating future space and facility models that can support programming and earned revenue, so the organization isn't always one grant cycle away from uncertainty. Trying to put the strategy and strategic plan, and trying to move ahead and mitigate and offset risks. Priority number 2, This is to show how programming creates opportunity value for all ages and backgrounds. So it's about opportunities, it's about making sure that arts and culture are accessible for all ages and diverse backgrounds. Practically, this means mentorship and training, reducing barriers for underrepresented and emerging creatives. It's about embedding equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility into how we make decisions. It also means building ongoing, respectful relationships with local Indigenous communities and supporting Indigenous-led and Indigenous partner opportunities. To deliver this well, we also need clear communications and a strong public presence. Next slide, please. Third priority, communications and brand leadership. So here, visibility drives participation and economic impact. This third priority is about being recognized as an arts and culture leader in the Alberni Valley. We'll launch the new Alberni Arts brand and build a communications and marketing strategy with measurable outcomes so we can clearly show what's working and who we're reaching. Better visibility isn't just marketing. It helps grow audiences, bring people into local spaces, support events, and attract visitors and partners who contribute to the local economy. Homestretch, folks. That sets up our fourth priority, partnering and advocating for impact. Partnerships at the center of our model, evolution and success, become are pieces that we need to enhance in terms of the existing relationships, but we also want to be able to identify new ones. So we're already planning out how we're going to grow partnerships across the valley, including First Nations, local government, nonprofits, tourism agencies, and businesses, because we believe that the collaborations help bridge gaps and increase our reach. We will also collect and share stories and data on how the real value of arts and culture, the participation, the volunteerism, the visitor draw, the community outcomes, so decision makers can see the return on investment. And not just the decision makers that provide the one-off or event-based grants, but we really believe that collectively, the more we understand the return on these and we have that information sharing level, then the better we'll all be for it. We will deliver and advocate for increased awareness, accessibility, and investment across all arts sectors, positioning Port Alberni as a leader and a connector. Next slide, please. Remember, this plan is still in draft, and I mentioned before that this is an evergreen document, and we want to keep it collaborative. We're actively inviting feedback before it's finalized and in an ongoing fashion. We'll welcome council's input on an ongoing basis, and especially around where partnerships can make the best and biggest difference, and how we can align with city priorities now and in the future. If you'd rather not send an email, we're always good for a conversation too. Next slide, please. Implementation is where the plans succeed or fail. We'll translate these priorities into annual operational plans. Staff reporting to the board will be structured around these four priorities, so we have increased clarity, accountability, and consistent tracking of outcomes. This strengthens our ability to apply for grants, report out clearly, and show our partners, including the city, the value of being delivered. And then the last couple of slides are appendices, so if we can move ahead to the close. I won't walk you through the appendices, but it's examples of engagement tools and so on. Summary of what we've heard. Thanks. To close, this plan is about using arts and culture as a practical tool for community strength while building a sustainable organization and that can keep delivering year after year. We're committed to working in partnership, particularly with the city, local businesses, tourism partners, as we listed, community organizations, and First Nations. We want to align efforts and maximize impact. So we'd welcome council's feedback on the draft priorities. We'd also welcome city staff to review the plan in detail and continue the conversation about partnership opportunities, especially where arts and culture can support city goals around community well-being, downtown, waterfront vitality, tourism, local economic development. Thank you again, Mayor Minions and the Committee of the Whole and Council for your time and for the work you do for our community. Our Arts Council Board and staff are here and happy to answer any questions in an ongoing fashion. Be grateful for any guidance on how to align this plan with the Council's priorities over the next years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to really recognize the board and staff at the Arts Council for all the work that you guys have done on this. It's always really nice to hear a report like this from someone, you know, that has come from outside of the city as an organization and see so much overlap with our own community plans. And also, interestingly, we very recently had kind of an updated plan from the Alberni Valley Heritage Commission, and a lot of overlap with that plan as well. So it feels like very much there's alignment on moving in the same direction, a consistent direction from many of, you know, our groups, both within the city organization as a whole and outside. So thank you for the work that you've done on this. I know that these types of updates are, like, especially for volunteer organizations with very limited staffing resources, these are big initiatives to take on, and it certainly does you know, improve the overall ability in which we're able to all kind of work in the right direction. So appreciate all the work that's done. I just want to say before I go to comments from other council, really love creative by nature. You know, because it kind of ties into our trails, which I know we love to promote a lot. You know, I think that there's some really great things in there. Also, I like the broadening out of what arts means in the community, and I think that that's something that's extremely important as well, tying into one of the comments that was just made by a member of the public around performing arts and, you know, having spaces ready for local musicians and performers. So yeah, I think there's a lot in there that we can kind of dig into in more detail. I'd love for our staff to do more of a review on it as well and provide any input. But thank you for the initial report and again, all the work that you've done on it to date. Comments from council? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, I would just want to thank you for coming in today and sharing this information. And I just really want to repeat what she said, what Anna Mayor said, that how important it is for every organization to change and evolve. And I really like the direction that you're going. I think it's really important. And also want to recognize how important art is to the community. I don't think people realize how important it is. It would be really sad if a community didn't have such a vibrant arts program to it. And I don't think people really realize how many artisans we have in our community. And I can't remember, as I'm sure you're aware, but I can't remember the number of people who, when you fill out that stats form, Stats Canada form every few years, that they recognize it themselves as an artisan. We have a hugely high number here in Port Alberni. So again, thank you for the good work that you do.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I used to work for the Roland Arts Centre back in the day as a theatre specialist. So my field is theatre and music a little bit. I dabble in that, but I don't sing though. But I just want to say, Port Alberni, the arts. The arts have always been pretty diversified in Port Alberni. Back in the day when Jan Peterson was at the Roland Arts Centre and Mrs. Schofield and so forth, many directors in that. And what I like is the diversification. You're still moving forward, but you're changing with the times. And I think that's really important because art is evolving, and what the Madam Mayor has said is the same thing. I like where you're going in that direction, and but don't forget the past too, because that's really important. There's a lot of artists, like we used to in the restaurant, used to hang a lot of art and sell it for the artists, and some great portraits and different things that that were hung, and use those restaurants and stores. Maybe they could help you there too. You know, I really hope that can happen. I'm just kind of curious to know how many members are with the Community Arts Council. I know you're not saying community anymore, but with the Arts Council. And also, I'll wait for that answer and then I'll ask my next question.
Sure. Well, I'll defer to Angela.
We have about 100 members in the community, and then we also have members outside the community as well, about 100 societies that are members of ours as well.
Wow, that's really exciting. And also, how's your funding going? Like, I know we used to get a lot of funding, then it got cut, everything gets cut. And so where are you at right now?
We are still funded through some major granting programs like the BC Arts Council, BC Gaming, and we're pretty diversely funded. So we have both the granting bodies as well as a lot of different funding streams, from memberships to fundraising to our programming. It's very much like a wide sky of funding that we kind of pick from. So, yeah.
Okay, and my other thing would be, do you want to plug what's happening at the Chamber of Commerce and what you're doing up there? Because it looks marvelous.
Yes. So the Chamber of Commerce, we moved to the Visitor Center in February. We have partnered with the Chamber and put up a gallery wall. So now there is a wall up with some art on it. We're going to have the ADSS exhibit. It's called Beauty of Humans. They usually do a social justice exhibit at the gallery. So without a gallery, they're going to be doing this wall at the Visitor Center. We are going to have an opening, I think it's May 14th. At the Visitor Center. So please come and support the students, and you can buy some art too.
And Madam Mayor, if you haven't had a chance to go see, I mean, great gift ideas, everybody, really different things. I'll help you plug that there,
Yes,
you know.
thank you. That as well.
So-
With our closing of the gift shop, we were quite sad about that. So we offered our artists to move into the Visitor Center gift shop. So their gift shop is amazing. It has a lot of original local artwork, and they're just having local arts as well. So a really good place to stop and grab a gift.
Well, we'll miss you down at the Quay because I think it was a great spot. But I do hope you come and do little kiosks up there, down there, and bring the artists down there still. And
Yeah.
You're going to have still children programming in different things, or an adult programming.
In terms of workshops or summer camps, this year we are pretty limited in our capacity considering our move. But we do want to build that out, so we have that recurring program for sure. And we also want to have a visibility at the Harbour Quay, absolutely, even though we're not there. Having pop-up events and adding to the revitalization and vitalization of the quay is important.
That's great, and I think the classes and the workshops, that's what I was involved with the community, with the Roland Arts Center at the time, and they were full all the time, and you got a lot of young, bubbling little artists out there in all different types, and it's not just painting, it's everything, that's where I classify music, theater, everything in there. So kudos to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and presenting today. Oh, I do have one last question before I forget. Does the Community Arts Council have a seat for a member on the Alberni Valley Heritage Commission, or is there overlap between your groups? You do? Okay, wonderful, that's great. Yeah, no, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. It's fantastic. It does seem like there is a lot of alignment there, and so it's fantastic to see that you're moving really in kind of a cohesive direction. And yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and presenting today.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks. All right, we have no unfinished business, no staff reports, no correspondence. So on to new business. Item number 1, financial plan amendment for Harbour Quay placemaking. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm grateful to staff for having provided a step stool here. The Marine Building and Harbour Quay were put up in 1984. Spirit Square was 2008. There are 14 businesses in those spaces and others supported by them. I think some of our recent challenges in getting vendors for spaces that have become vacant are partially attributed to the tired and dated look of the place. The patio in front of the Marine Building was a fast response to COVID-19. And while it serves a purpose, it is not everything that is befitting Harbour Quay and the location there. Councilors Solda and Patello saw the dramatic changes resulting from some placemaking projects profiled at the BC EDA conference 2 years ago in Penticton. So some lower than expected tender costs for Argyle Street updates have created an opportunity for some placemaking work there. And in addition to that, we are working on a couple of grant applications to provide improvements to Harbour Quay. So we're coming to request that council would assign $400,000 from the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve to fund placemaking renewal at Harbour Quay and add that placemaking renewal at Harbour Quay in the 2026 capital plan. I'm here to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I remember when Mayor Minions and I got elected last term, one of the first things that we did was we went down to Harbour Quay, grabbed a coffee and walked around and we just dreamed. So I'm really super excited to see this coming forward to council. There's 3 reasons why I'll be supporting this. First of all, it's our responsibility to maintain community infrastructure. A few years ago, one of the business owners at Harbour Quay said to me, one of his guests said, when you look this direction, it's one of the most beautiful views in the world, but when you turn around and look this direction, not so much. Harbour Quay is over 40 years old and it is desperate need of a refresh. Secondly, we need to look at ways, how can we increase our tourism and the economic benefits that it brings to a community? One of the most apparent benefits of tourism is its role in generating economic growth and employment opportunities. Tourists spend money on accommodation, transportation, dining, shopping, and other various services in your community. And secondly, the creation of a third space. Harbour Quay is becoming the center for many community events, and those events are growing. And the latest example was the Christmas light up in December, where hundreds of residents came down and enjoyed the festivities. Third places are a key to fostering a sense of that community connection. So if I may, could I read the motion? I'd like to move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council amend the City of Port Alberni 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan Bylaw number 5138 as follows. Assign $400,000 from the Canada Community Building Fund Reserve to fund placemaking renewal at the Alberni Harbour Quay. Number 2, add placemaking renewal at the Harbour Quay in the 2026 capital plan in the amount of $400,000.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. And I will just add to your comments that before we were elected to council together, 4 years earlier, we were put on the branding committee together, led by yourself, Pat. And one of the things that I recall from that committee is that we actually ended up speaking more about the third place concept and creating community gathering spaces than we actually did about the brand of the community. Because all of the experts that we talked to said your brand kind of creates itself when you become a community that people want to spend their time in. And so we ended up looking at community gathering spaces in a variety of communities, and we really focused in on opportunities for the Harbour Quay at that time, which of course didn't get prioritized. So I'm really excited to see this come forward as well. I think that the Harbour Quay is such a critical space in our community, and yeah, just really excited to see it get a bit of an update. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting because being on council for quite a while, for many years, that's what you heard. We haven't done anything down at the Harbour Quay, and the merchants down there too were always say, you haven't done anything, we need this updated, we need to do a bunch of stuff down there. When I came on council, I always had, and living in Vancouver, I always thought, oh, wouldn't this area be a great, like Granville Island, you know, when you go there and everybody's, it's just, the hub is just everything. And when I was with the Roland Arts Center, we used to go down there on the stage and perform on the stage with the kids and that were in the workshops. But it got too hot because the sun would hit that stage and that was the end of it. So hopefully there'll be some kind of stage there that will be added to it, to this placemaking, and where this can happen again and bands can have all this opportunity. So also I actually do believe that when you look at the buildings and that, it's very tired looking, and it needs to have a new vibe to it. And just like the Community Arts Council coming to the city and with their vision, new vision and stuff like that, the Harbour Quay is the same. And having that, the modernization, I have no doubt the merchants will be very excited about it. And will we be talking with the merchants about what they see too? Has that been talked about? And maybe Mr. Deacon can mention it, or yourself, Madam Mayor, because that's really important to get their input too. Just, I mean, their vision in that. Although in the end, it comes directly to the city. Pat.
There has been some discussion with the merchants down there, and there needs to be more. There will be more, but so far we've, I think, experienced a bit of excitement on their part for what might come forward.
And just one more thing, Madam Mayor. I'm just kind of curious to know the art pieces in that area. Will they get a revamp? And there hasn't been some questions on social media about the little sailor guy with his little scope there, or the captain. What happened to him? Is he, because he's disappeared? So maybe you could answer that too at the same time. Sorry.
I'm not sure I can answer where the captain went. Stole away in a ship one night, I suppose. We have found a couple of pieces from the Babe Gunn fountain statue, so we're aware of those. We're aware that that needs to be improved, and that there are, in fact, other signs around the community that could use some improvement.
All right, and that's great that if we're going to look after it and maintain it, but if anybody hears, maybe staff, if you know what happened to him, it would be great, or is that the Port Authority's responsibility, or who is it? Otherwise, I'll do my own research if I have to.
Roland Smith knew where it was today.
Oh, really?
He stopped me to talk today, and he's like, I see people speculating on this. He's like, I know where the statue is. So I think that I think it's in maintenance or something. But we'll get a better answer. Probably Roland's not the one that knows where it is, but he did seem to have the information today. We'll check into that so we can get an update. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know how I follow Captain talk like that. Jeez. It's quite all right. Actually, first of all, to our corporate officer, Madam Corporate Officer, could you put page 40 up on the screen? Is that possible? Which is the concept that we're discussing, and I think it would just be helpful for the community to take a look at it while I just state not much of a question. First of all, thank you very much for the report, Mr. Deacon. Thank you very much for your hard work. And I do agree with the mayor and councillors before me who have stated that this needs a refresh. It's 40 years old and looking tired and still supposedly a focal point of our downtown and our community. So there's the concept. Very nice. Of course, the finished project will be close to that and not quite that concept. But I do like the start. I do look forward to it. I would like to see us, much like this table and that, if we have any more reclaimed wood from the Somas mill, that we would use that for picnic benches or anything like that. So not saying that that's a way to cut costs. It could be a way to cut costs, but also to promote our history as well down at the Harbour Quay. So, but I'll be supporting this, much like the reasons that Councillor Haggard and the Mayor and Councillor Solda. It's a long time coming. It really is. So I appreciate all the hard work and the dreaming that was done down there by you ladies. And definitely I look forward to a finalized project. And I'm with Councillor Solda as well. And I have no fear that Mr. Deacon and staff will be in touch with the merchants down there and work around how this is all going to work out. So, but I think the end result will be wonderful down there. So I appreciate all the hard work.
Yeah, thank you for that. And a great comment on the potential for reclaimed wood from buildings that we might be tearing down. Maybe there's opportunities there, and certainly we'll look for the opportunity to use them, but that's a great thought. Any other comments? Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm also very excited to see this brought forward. I think that this has been a long time coming, and I think that there's few things in this role that get me as excited as the idea of third spaces and placemaking, and I just really think that that's at the core of so much of how a community grows and thrives. And I thought because we use a lot of language at council that people aren't always caught up on, and I had to learn a lot what this lingo is when I got here. I thought maybe I would just quickly define, because I've heard it mentioned a few times before tonight, a third space, first space being, or third place, sorry, I'm saying place. First place being your home, second place being work, third place being basically where everything else happens in terms of community and gathering. And I think that it's just obvious that Harbour Quay is arguably our most important third place, and yeah, it deserves some love. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dame. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, motion has been moved and seconded. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much, Pat. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, somebody did ask me on the agenda, sorry, I should have asked that a little earlier. So we came under budget on the Argyle project, and they were concerned if we already passed this, but what happens if it does go over budget? And I actually said we made sure that wouldn't happen, so maybe that could be answered.
Andrew, maybe you could speak to tenders and.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, so what we've done is we've put a contingency in there, and we haven't used all of the funding that we had set aside. This is just the opportunity to use some of these fundings that we had earmarked for Argyle to improve that corridor and have that Harbour Quay funding freed up for 2026.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, then moving on to item number 2, we have Crime Prevention and Community Safety Program. Welcome, Mary Claire.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I appreciate the opportunity to present this important report, important for me, of course, and for all of us, on crime prevention and community safety, and really initiatives that the municipal-led program could be involved in. It's designed to be a coordinated municipal response to community safety concerns, prevention, and visible disorder. Just to kind of recap on some of the initiatives that we've had, in October, there was a neighborhood mitigation strategy that we presented that was grant funded dependent. To date, we have not received any grant funding, so that initiative it's still in place, but it's not active. In November, Council voted on the clean team, and it's been a staggered approach for the clean team, which has made a difference in our community with keeping the streets clean from debris and visible maintenance in high public areas. Then in January, Councillor Solda put forth a motion, which is this report is in response to that. So I just wanted to situate you as to where we are. Next slide. There's 3 issues being addressed in the report: the public space impacts, the current response limitations, and the scope and focus of action. The issue before council relates to persistent public spaces that affect community well-being, economic activity, and confidence in civic spaces. These impacts include graffiti, debris, and the presence of garbage, needles, disruptive behaviors, and they deter from the uptown area and the neighborhood commercial areas. While these issues are not new, feedback from stakeholders and businesses and residents indicate that their frequency and visibility have heightened concerns about safety and responsiveness. Our current response limitations are that we address through reactive approaches, complaints, calls, through public works, through bylaw, through our CMP. Those are quite often reactive. What we're proposing today is to complement that through a proactive approach. And there's no single coordinated framework. In all the research that I have done, there's no single coordinated research. There's no one size fits all. This is a Port Alberni approach, not a City of Nanaimo or Campbell River, although I have presented in the report some examples from other communities just to get a sense of where other communities have gone. As a result, there can also be, with this, it's important to know that through coordinated approaches, we end up having a much more of a focus and a scope as to whose role it is and how those roles complement each other. We all work very well together, but it's with our limited resources. Next slide. There's 4 main components to the program. A clean and graffiti response service, which is what we have now, focused on visible impacts in public spaces, including graffiti removal, debris, etc. This is the component most directly aligned with core municipal responsibilities. The second, excuse me, is a targeted non-police safety presence in identified hotspots and peak periods. Depending on the model, this could include licensed security patrols, which many communities have opted to do, and we're proposing sort of a 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. type of service. We could also include business check-ins, observation and reporting, de-escalation where appropriate, and coordination with all of our existing services, RCMP, bylaw, community partners. But most importantly, this is not intended to replace outreach health or clinical services. Third component is community safety coordination through programs like crime prevention through environmental design. Once filled, the community safety coordinator role could help support businesses identify practical environmental improvements, coordinate responses across departments and partners, and support monitoring and reporting. So that would be a resource that could be provided. And fourth, business security support and prevention-oriented capital or micro grants. This could include matching grants for crime prevention through environmental design. One of the things that we hear quite often is that businesses, if they want to make an improvement, these improvements are usually quite expensive. So to gate an alcove, for example, they're usually quite expensive, so matching grants could be a possibility through a micro-grant approach. So more of a partnership. Next slide. There's 3 options before council today. The first option provides the most complete future program response and aligns most closely with council's direction to consider city-led actions addressing visible disorder prevention and community safety concerns. All of the options that we're presenting for you today are for 2027, not for this year. Option 2 is more fiscally conservative and emphasizes prevention, environmental design, and direct support to businesses and property owners. However, it would not add a dedicated patrol or safety presence. The third option is to test a broader service model before making a long-term commitment. There's already been incremental steps made and lots of good work. And the current decision point is about whether to consolidate, expand, or refine these efforts. So this is what this report is intended. Next slide. I'm not going to read everything on this slide. This provides you with a snapshot of what other municipalities have done and how they have approached the same things that we are dealing with here. And, you know, many communities have invested in dedicated cleaning. Others have introduced non-police safety or ambassador programs. Some have taken the environmental design approach, and they've also taken the structural approach. The scale and the cost varies widely. So as I said before, there's no one size fits all. Next slide. A consistent lesson, though, is that there's no one size fits all, but a lot of them have these 4 elements. Visible maintenance enhances safety, non-police safety programs, environmental design strategies, and most importantly, in a coordinated municipal response. Next slide. So the financial considerations, the full concept is estimated at $414,000 or $415,000. Including the clean team and the security patrol. That is by far the most expensive. The microcapital grants would be a matching grant model. For example, you may want to apply for a grant for up to $5,000, and this could be a matching grant, so you can have $10,000 to do whatever it is. The report also notes that while grants may help support enhancements or one-time initiatives, core program operations would more realistically need to be supported through municipal funding to sustain it, to have a long-term approach, and to be able to move forward with some of the safety measures. Next slide. So what the program may improve: visible conditions in public spaces, crime reduction, business support and retention, responsiveness, coordination in hotspots. What it will not resolve is the underlying causes of homelessness, substance use, and mental health challenges. This is to support the disruption that's happening and issues with crime. For Port Alberni, the key question is which elements are practical, affordable, and appropriate in our local context. Next slide. So in summary, the report before you outlines options for a future crime prevention and community safety program beginning in 2027, builds on existing efforts. The future options may include targeted non-police safety presence, improved coordination, crime prevention through environmental design support, and selective capital or grant investments. And lastly, financial considerations suggest a phased or prevention-focused approach may be more realistic than implementing the full model, but that's really up to council to decide. We wanted to present all of the options for you today, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you very much for the fantastic report. Really appreciated all the information, and I like all of the options. I think every component of that makes a lot of sense and would love to be able to implement the full the full kind of opportunity at some point in the near future. So thanks for getting us started. Councillor Solda.
Thank you for the report, and I agree. I mean, I love everything on the report, and I would love to implement it all. It's very expensive, but not because of you. Could we send the bill or an invoice to the provincial and federal government and say thank you for doing this for us, since it's where it's all stemming from and everything like that? I would love to send that invoice. Other places have, I'm sure. But anyways, we are not a unique community that has this issue, and that's really important. I mean, I have read that, oh, Port Alberni's got this and this, but it's all communities, and it's not even here. It's in all of the world, you know, has this problem, and ours. So we're not unique, and it's sad that we have all come to this. You know, homelessness was always there, but it was hidden. And now it's not, right? And that's really important because a lot of people don't realize it's not happened. It didn't happen today. It's been ongoing, and it's sad. Anyways, have you talked to the merchants in, I mean, we have 4 different areas. We have Redford, we have the upper area of Johnson Road, Lower Johnson Road, the 3rd Avenue area, and have we talked to the sectors and all some of the businesses, what they see, how we can help them? You know, I mean, it's great having this report, but it's the merchants and even surrounding homes in some of our sectors of our city, and it would be great to know what they think. You know, I mean, it'd be great to have all this, but what can we afford to do, but what can we not afford what to do, right? Because there is such an issue, and that's really important. So I'll let you answer that first, and then I'll carry on with my little notes.
So it's a 2-part answer, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the bylaw department and the community safety department, we engage with lots of businesses and residents, so we hear a lot. The approach in this report was not to seek the engagement first. It was more to get a sense from council about the direction and then go for engagement. And engagement is extremely important. So that's the approach that we would like to take.
I like that approach better, and to have that engagement, because that's who we're hearing from, is from not just from social media, but we're hearing from the merchants, and we're hearing from homeowners, and in all areas of our community, and we see it ourselves. You know, we're not got our heads in the sand, we see it too. And so I think that's really important. Before I don't want to make a decision until we have the engagement from the community and hear what the community has to say on this, because it's going to be an expensive project. No, I guess I shouldn't say project, but it's going to be expensive. So I think that's important. So anyways, I like the idea of grants and helping. There's a lot of merchants I've talked to who would love to put their alcoves and have it fenced, but they can't afford, or gated, but they can't afford to do that. Although that really helps some of the when I drive around and I see gates, and I'm really sad that we have to do that, but it really, really works. So I like that idea. The security team, when I look at what you wrote about the security teams during the day, that's fine, but 2 people, it's like I've said it before, like mom and dad tells you not to do something, they turn around and walk away, and you do it anyways. So, I mean, it's a weird scenario and analogy, but it's true. But some of the crime doesn't happen until after hours, and that's during the day, you know, that's where the merchants can come in and say, hey, this is a shoplifter. You're not going to catch that shoplifter because that shoplifter's already gone before that person comes. So that's where the consultation with the merchants or homeowners would be really important to know. The last part that I want to bring up is the other communities that were mentioned on here. Do you know how it's working for them? Could you tell us how that, because there was nothing on there.
Yes, I'll also pick up on your comment about the hours for the security team. Just to clarify, we're proposing 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., not during the daytime. But of course, it would be dependent on what the merchants and the residents have to say. Secondly, I spoke extensively with Campbell River. And what they told me was that after they introduced private security, crime went down severely. And that was really encouraging because that was really early on in developing this report. And so they're the one community that I can cite that has had a direct impact on their measures, have taken a direct impact. They have crime prevention through environmental design grants and have for quite a number of years. So this is not a new phenomenon, and a lot of communities are moving in that direction to assist.
So my comment to that is, so our city is spread out. So we don't have just one area. Campbell River is a little, it's spread, but it's not like ours. We're, again, I don't know how that would work, but also would the private, in Campbell River, private or their security, do they drive around or do they literally get out of the vehicle and walk the streets? And that's, to me, is important instead of just driving around.
To the best of my knowledge, I think it's a mix of both.
Thank you very much for those questions. Councillor Mealy and then Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much to our Manager of Community Safety and Social Development, if I get that right, Ms. Massicotte. Thank you so much. Just really appreciate the report in general, just all the hard work that you've done and to put this together and put us on the right track. And I appreciate coming to the Committee of the Whole to get a gauge on Council's wishes on this. And first of all, I'd like to just say the non-police, I would call it non-uniform safety presence. Just because I found that I have, I've just was given Narcan training not too long ago, and I walk at nighttime, and it seemed like just a normal person on the road is a little more receptive in comments to the people in need than uniformed people, and I've seen fire and ambulance and police. So I think that's a big part to have people who are there for safety, but not to be in a uniform per se to scare people, and so that's a big part, and I appreciate that. So. I like it all, of course, and the budget does kind of scare me a little bit. And it is what it is, and these are the facts, and I appreciate you coming forward with it. I would be endorsing a phased pilot project or a prevention-focused program concept, not the full comprehensive program at this time. But we have to do something, and appreciate the hard work again, and just like I said, just trying to put us in the right direction. And also, I always talk about unique Port Alberni solutions. I'm glad you started out that, it's a problem for everybody, but let's focus on what we can do here, not what Nanaimo does, and bringing in those ideas for sure. I talked to, going back to Campbell River, the last time I drove through Campbell River, runner-up of Salmon Capital of the World, just so we're clear. But it is downtown by the DI and that, and I haven't been there in a few years, and I go, oh my goodness, it's like driving downtown Victoria. If you haven't been there for a few years, you're like, what happened here, right? So, but again, we're not unique in those. We're just a little different when it comes to, the numbers and the areas, like Councillor Solda said as well. So I appreciate the idea of coming with a Port Alberni solution and coming with that mindset rather than just taking everybody else's ideas and hopefully it'll work, right? So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder for everyone that the intent of this is to bring it to budget for next year. So this is the start of the conversation. We have lots of opportunity to think about it, ask more questions, and look at how some components, all the components, or a phased approach may fit into our 5-year financial plan as we continue to move forward. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A often recited phrase in the back of my mind lately is start where you are, use what you have, and accomplish what you can. And I think that where we are is quite clear that there is issues of street disorder, and there are very real concerns amongst both residents and business owners with regards to that street disorder. Use what we have, I think, is something that a lot of municipal governments have fallen short on, that they haven't clearly reviewed what authority is given to them under the community charter and similar pieces of legislation. And I think there is a lot more that we can do. And then, of course, accomplish what we can. And the whole point of doing any of this is to increase the safety of people in this community. So I've heard a number of comments through discussions lately with regards to observed behaviors on the street and how that makes people feel uncomfortable, not only in their personal safety, but also in the safety of their businesses and the likelihood that their business is going to deteriorate because of it. Those are real concerns. And those are concerns, though, that in my mind fall under the category of street disorder or general disorder. So this plan, although it may work hand in hand with other plans, such as housing plans or drug rehabilitation plans or healthcare plans, this is a separate plan. And it's directed towards the street disorder. And I think that in the past, we have failed to use every tool in our toolbox. We haven't used what we have, and we could do a much better job. And I think that once we accomplish that, we will have much greater support for all of the other programs in the community working together. Some of those other programs are environmental design, which might go to the planning department in determining what types of buildings are built and how they're built and where they're put and how that encourages greater public safety. So at $458,000, I think that probably equals about roughly, very roughly, 2 RCMP officers. Relying solely on RCMP to provide public safety is, I think, too limiting on a specialized force that doesn't address a variety of other disorder issues. So I think that while it may seem expensive, in the long run, it's not. It's less than or equal to 2 RCMP officers, and I know we've been asked for many more than 2 RCMP officers. And I think it's important that we don't limit or restrict what we can achieve, but that we get ahead of the problem and do it as right as possible the first time. So, Madam Mayor, I would make the 2 motions that are in the agenda if this is an appropriate time. So, Madam Mayor, I move the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council endorse the Crime Prevention and Community Safety CPCS program concept beginning in 2027, consisting of a coordinated municipal response that may include a clean and graffiti response service, a targeted non-police safety presence focused on identified hotspot locations and peak periods, crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED, assistance for businesses experiencing challenges related to crime, disruption, and social disorder, and targeted prevention-oriented capital or micro-grant measures.
Thank you. Moved and seconded by Councillor Solda. Go ahead, Councillor Solda.
So with this motion, does this mean we're going to put it into the budget, or are we still going to have that dialogue with the community? Because I still think we should still have some kind of dialogue with the community that, yeah.
So the motion is to endorse the plan as a starting point, and then the next motion that Councillor Patola will make is to refer this basically to budget 2027.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I would answer that same question from my fellow councillor to be that this is starting the process and certainly implementation, and the full program itself is still in development, which will definitely include consultation groups, not just businesses, but I hope citizens and residents as well. And that implementation may change the numbers as well as what the final model shows. So I would move, Madam Mayor, that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council, oh, sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, we have to vote.
We'll wait a moment. We'll come back to you for that, though. Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last council term, Mayor Minions, Councillor Campbell, and myself went up to visit the Community Safety Office in Campbell River because we wanted to follow a similar model and put a similar model in our downtown core here. So we went there to visit and get ideas and what worked and what didn't work. And one thing that they had was security cameras placed in strategic locations in their downtown core. And as soon as bad behavior started, it was noticed and picked up, and a bylaw officer was sent or an RCMP officer was called to go to that space. I was wondering if there's been any consideration about putting security cameras in our hot spots, if that's what you want to call it.
To answer your question through the mayor, is that we explored that option. And at this point, we didn't include that as an additional infrastructure option just because of the cost. And so, but we certainly explored that option. And yes, I spoke to Campbell River about that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for calling that out. We did copy the idea from Campbell River of the community safety building. And I just want to say that it is, some of these initiatives were like early in the last term. It's nice to now see some of these things actually completed and us be in a position as a result of having the public safety building there and staffed and building the relationships in the community that it is to be able to sort of go to the next level of implementing this plan and coming forward with it. So just really appreciate the work that's been done.
Thank you.
Were there other hands from councillors? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just on the motion, it's the as written, but is that option one out of the three options? Is that what we're endorsing right now?
Yeah,
Yes.
as written, yes, correct.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm okay with it because obviously we have to do something. But as I stated before, I think there are these other two options. So option two is to endorse a prevention-focused CPCS program, and part of that is this option is more fiscally conservative and emphasizes prevention and environmental design and direct support to businesses and property owners. Would not add a dedicated patrol or safety presence. Or option three was the endorse a phased pilot for 2027, which is this option allows the city to test a broader service model before making a long-term commitment. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, but I understand council or committee of the whole, sorry, and how they will go forward, so.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And again, we may end up, at budget time this year, actually scaling it back to a smaller trial. So this, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in any of these options, really. They're all a good starting point. But I think this sort of endorses the full picture, gets us, keeps the work going so that the plans can be fully developed. And then at budget time, we can determine, or council can determine what's the right way to move forward. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate that, and I totally agree. It's at least what we'll do at this point is, and again, like you said, we can come back to budget and anything happens at budget, but at least we'll know the full costs, the whole 9 yards, and then go forward from there. And then if council wants to make the decision at the time, or whatever the council is, they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to relate one personal anecdote with regards to safety and why it's important that we get a fully costed report in with all the options. The question with regards to surveillance cameras is interesting. I recall one of the most unique experiences working at the courthouse was the installation of surveillance cameras in the courthouse so that sheriffs could observe people's behavior and make sure that nothing was getting untoward. And one of the first things they observed was an individual leaving the courthouse, stealing one of the surveillance cameras.
Oh my God. Thank you. All right, motion has been moved and seconded. Not seeing any further comments on this part of the motion. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And Councillor Patola, would you like to make the next one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council direct administration to incorporate the preferred CPCS service model and associated funding requirements into the 2027 financial plan process and return with implementation details, refined costing, and performance measures.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments on this part? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much, Mary Claire. And we'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, notice of motion from Councillor Mealy, and this is for Committee of the Whole. Councillor Mealy, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the motion today is that the Committee of the Whole recommend Council direct staff to amend Council Procedures Bylaw number 4830 to include a new item for Committee of the Whole meetings labeled Council's Reports, or Council's Response, sorry, to take place right after the public input period is listed in Part 9, Committees, number 41, of Order of Procedures and Business at Committee of the Whole, and delete number 41, Section 6, council or committee member may ask or answer questions of a member of public who is addressing the committee but must not enter into debate.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Solda. Go ahead, Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I do appreciate this. So this was part of what happened last, and I do appreciate all the councillors and the mayor for what they did that day, allowing, first of all, and allowing the mayor allowing people to speak and having, much like today as well, it's not a question period per se, but allowing people to have their questions, and I appreciate that. So the reason why I made this motion is because what I would like to see at a council meeting is to allow the public have uninterrupted time to have their say, and then have council take notes, or the mayor, and answer the questions afterwards. And I believe the reason why was Mrs. Roosin was next in the line, and she kind of lost herself a little bit because of the discussion that happened, and I wouldn't say it's back and forth, but it was definitely an interruption to public input period. Not an interruption, sorry, I shouldn't say that because that was part of, it's listed in the bylaw as such, to allow councillor or the mayor to respond to that. So that's all I'm trying to do at this point, Madam Mayor, is to allow public input period to happen in a section uninterrupted so the public can have their say. If they have a couple questions, we'll write them down. And then even if the question, and going back to the discussion today, even if the question isn't answerable at the time, or there's it's phrased in a different way, at least then the mayor or the chair or the council member can say, no problem, we understand your question, we'll get that back to you. Or if there's an opportunity to answer it during that time, and there's no real debate because of it. It's either the public will speak, the council will answer, and we move on with our day. So that's how I envision this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Mealy. Comments? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree 100%. Public input period should be public input period. It should not be a public debate period. Members of the public need to feel safe coming to council because it is scary standing there in front of 7 people that they don't know or may not know very well and expressing their opinions. And members of council may not agree with those opinions that are expressed, but it's our duty to listen to those opinions and take, we want to listen to both sides. However, I believe what I would like to see is it's the mayor's responsibility. She's chairing the meeting. If she wants to respond or answer the question, that's up to her. Or if she knows a counselor that has more information, then she can call on that counselor to respond or answer that question. For example, if somebody comes up for a public input period and wants to know, what is council doing to recruit doctors? I've had a doctor for 3 years. Then she can look at me and say, can you respond to this? Because I'm very heavily involved in that. But I don't think that we should be answering or expressing our opinions and have a set section for that. I believe that's the mayor's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I have a few thoughts on this. So I was a little torn on this at first. I think a bit of an alternative perspective from some of what's been shared already. And I think I lean toward not supporting this, although I like the intent of it. What I find slightly, I think, somewhat outside of the intent that we're trying to get to, which is, we want to make sure members of the public are comfortable coming and speaking. I think this actually, in some ways, makes that less so, which is obviously not the intent. It depends on the situation, but I will say that, and you guys know this because I do it a lot, I like to talk with people when they come up, and I like to answer questions when they have them, even if it is not question period, and Mr. Anderson, we know, gets held closer to the rules because he's here all the time and he knows them, but as people in the room will be aware, especially people who are first-time speakers at council who don't know our processes, I think if they get up and ask a question at public input period and we say, yeah, we'll respond, 15 minutes later, potentially, then I think that it feels less comfortable. So what I like is to be able to, if there is a question and it's an easy question and not like, a whole, sometimes it's easy to express opinions, and I completely agree with taking that out of it as much as possible. But I think that a lot of things that get asked at public input period or question period are pretty easy questions that are easy for me to answer, Andrew to answer, Councillor Haggard, you're absolutely correct, like sometimes a member of council to answer. And I think that's actually what your intent is here, Councillor Mealy. And at the same time, I think we already really have the ability within our council procedure bylaw to do that. So I actually think there's a lot of alignment here on what we want. We want a public process that yes, we have a set of rules, but we want a public process that enables members of the public to engage with council in a way that feels comfortable. I think we have that already, and I agree completely that it's not the intent to debate with members of the public, and I think that we don't necessarily need a change to our council procedures bylaw for that. We just needed to have this conversation, I would say. So I think this is really helpful. I'm certainly open to changing my opinion on that if council does think a more formalized change to our procedures bylaw would benefit that overall process. But reading through the procedures bylaw before tonight, just sort of in preparation for this and refreshing myself on it, I think that what we're trying to obtain is there, and we can do it. So appreciate the intent, and I think this will be a good discussion. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I like it when you answer the question from the public, because it's a simple question and it's a simple answer at times, and the public doesn't always have the answer, so that's why they're seeking it here. And it just brings us a little closer to the public, more community engagement, and I really like that. So I know what your intent was, and that's why I second it, but I do like the engagement, and yeah, I'll leave it like that.
I think I'd maybe add just one more thing, because it's easy to say it's not our role in public input period to debate the public. I think it's also not our role to defend our position on decisions that council has made. So when I say answer questions, I think sometimes that can get taken a bit out of context. If somebody stands up and wants us to, recount like 6 months worth of public discussion that happened, I don't think that's what public input period is for. It's for someone to stand up and say, I don't like that decision you made, and here's why. And if there's a clarifying question, then I can answer that clarifying question. So these are just, my thoughts on what good practice is, but all of this I do think is well covered within our procedures bylaw as it is today. And sometimes it's just helpful for us to have a bit of a refresh discussion on how we want to implement our procedures bylaw, because it's that more than anything is how we hold each other to it and implement it as a council. Councillor Haggard.
Sometimes when you're not here and somebody else is sharing the meeting, sometimes it's difficult to respond appropriately. I remember I tried to respond appropriately to questions that were asked during public input period, and I was actually chastised by a member of council in a public domain that this is public input period, not public question period. So I think council has to be aware that whoever's sharing the meeting needs to have some flexibility.
Absolutely, and I didn't see that meeting. I don't remember that, but but you're right. And again, our procedures bylaw does give that power to the chair. So it is public input period, but it does say right within it that the chair has the ability to answer questions and respond where necessary at their discretion. So again, I think this is an important piece, because the chair, if it might not be me, if whoever the chair is, also may not think it's appropriate to respond to any of the questions that are asked. And that is also their discretion. So it's your discretion to answer, it's your discretion to not answer. Some questions are just not easy to answer because they do require a whole lot more explanation than an off the top of your kind of mind response that comes in question period or public input. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would agree that I'm actually pretty comfortable with the procedures bylaw as it is. I also don't have a problem with this either. Like this is if council wanted to do this, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But I do think that it makes sense that typically the chair would be at their discretion responding. The only time I think where it really is a potential issue is sometimes during input period, yes, it's questions, yes, it's opinions, but on occasion things are stated as fact from members of the public, sometimes about members of council, and they may not be fact. And it is difficult, I'm sure, I don't know that I've personally been in that position, but I've seen it happen to others, to sit here and hear statements made or claims made about you and just sit there and bite your tongue. And the danger there, of course, is that it could become debate very easily. But again, that would have to be up to the chair to moderate that and say, did you want to make a statement? All of these things may function as they are with this current council, but we do have to be aware of the fact that future dynamics could be quite different than this one, and that's what we have to be basing our policy on. And so I do sometimes feel that we should have some wording in there that gives clarity to these specific circumstances where a member of the public may make an accusation or a claim that others in the public are hearing this and going, oh, I didn't know that. That sounds like truth to me, and it isn't. And councillors should have some form of opportunity to request to the chair that they respond to that. That's only my thought.
Yeah, thank you. That is an excellent point. And I do try to respond when I hear something stated by a member of the public that I know to not be factual, or respond if something is said about a member of council that is also not truthful or accurate, or give that member of council an opportunity to respond. I would encourage any member of council who hears something that they feel is not appropriate also to feel comfortable interrupting with a point of order. And that is perfectly acceptable to, if you hear something said that you want to say I don't think that was appropriate, I don't think that's truthful comment, then a member of council can certainly use a point of order to interrupt the meeting in that way as well. And I would encourage that. Councillor Mealy.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going, just like a point of information at that point too. It's a brief strategic question or statement made by an opponent during a debate speech to challenge arguments, point out inconsistencies, or to introduce new points. So I would suggest that if someone did come forward and had something to say that wasn't factual for council, that they could use that as well. Yeah, I appreciate the debate on it. I appreciate the talk and the discussion on this. Again, it's just more along the lines of we had a situation at the last meeting where I did see a person who came here and who isn't used to speaking and got a little flustered because of what happened during that meeting. And that's all it is. And Madam Mayor, I give you all the credit in the world. Again, today is a prime example of allowing someone to ask questions during public input period. And I've been the chair where, yes, I've felt like, oh, we're not answering that question. It doesn't, but I wouldn't want to blur the lines between, public input period and question period by having people come here and expect their questions to be answered during that because somebody else had their questions answered. So that's all it is, but, and just allowing the public to speak, of course, like I just said. So I mean, if we look at this and what I've written down, I mean, I'm still willing to have council's response right afterwards, but still allow the chair to have their answers in that. But again, I'm just appreciative of the discussion tonight because of what happened last meeting, and I will honor you, Madam Mayor, for how you run the meetings and how you work within the bylaw and allow a leeway for a lot of people to have their questions and first-time speakers to have their idea because maybe they don't know the procedures. So I really appreciate how you run that meeting. I do.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I just also want to point out, I was at another mayor, not you, but another mayor would not answer the questions. And it was a very simple question that the public came in here and asked. And it was like, I'm waiting for the answer. And they said, well, we'll get back to you. We'll put it in a notice or something like that. And I went, oh my God. And it was really frustrating as a counselor sitting in these seats because I knew the mayor could answer that. It just took one sentence, you know, and you couldn't. So I really do like it when, if you can, and like you said, there's questions that you can't answer because they're more detailed and there's more to it than just, you know, a very short paragraph. So just wanted to point that out. This has been tried before and it has been frustrating.
Yeah. No, I think these are great points, and, you know, we'll likely have a new council at some point in the very near future. We will have different people sitting here. So you know, maybe it is the time to do a review to see if we want to clarify any of the kind of pieces within our procedures bylaw and update the procedures bylaw to be more prescriptive to how we would like the meetings to flow. I think this motion doesn't necessarily do that today because it's more focused on one piece of it. I'm happy, you know, for this motion to move forward if council wants to consider it. We may also want to bring an additional motion at a future meeting if we do want to make, if we do want to be a bit more prescriptive and a little bit less just how the chair is chairing in our procedures bylaw, then that might be something for us to consider as well, so that the meetings continue into the future to be run in a way that that whoever the council is feels is welcoming to the public. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just thinking that perhaps my preference would be that to support this motion, but remove the part about deleting the section here, so that we're not actually altering the procedures bylaw. We're simply adding this extra segment in order to allow the chair to include, does any member of council want to respond? I'd be okay with that. I think the part that I'm not fully on board with is removing section 41.6.
Thank you. Good suggestion. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I was just going to say that as kind of a compromise to this is after the discussion is to still allow and I say council's response, not the mayor's response, council's response. The mayor can say, yes, Councillor Haggard or Councillor Solda or whoever can respond to that, or if they want to. But I agree with Councillor Dame and the discussion here today, if it's been working, and again, with you at the helm, Madam Mayor, it works very well to just allow a quick answer to those easy questions, which is what the public is looking for. So I will move an amendment to this motion where we delete from the words "and delete" and all the way till the end.
Second.
There we go.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Further comments? Yep, the motion is that the Committee of the Whole recommend council direct staff to amend council procedures bylaw number 4830 to include a new item for COW meetings labeled council's response to take place right after public input period as listed under Part 9, number 40 of the procedures bylaw. Further comments? Councillor Patola.
I just think it makes it more confusing because you have two sections that are going to coexist together that say not necessarily contradictory things, but not the same thing. And so then it becomes unclear as to whether the second section modifies the first section and therefore makes the first section of no force and effect. I would think that legislative drafting is something best done by legislative drafters. It's hard to do in committee. And I would think that if there's an intent that council wishes to have the bylaws procedure reflect, that should be what the motion is, and send it to staff to draft the bylaw in the most effective manner possible to achieve that intent and not get muddled up in people's suggestions of wording.
Thank you. I think that my overall thoughts on this is that it is worth a potential, so every time we update the procedures bylaw, like, you know, there is a process to go through because it is a bylaw and not just a policy. I would rather look at the whole procedures bylaw because you know, even just through this conversation, I think there's a few other potential pieces in there that we may want to make maybe minor, maybe slightly more significant changes to. So I think I'm feeling a little hesitant to support this, although this just goes to council. So supporting it today may just give us the opportunity to think on it a little further and then have further dialogue and discussion and decide if we want to change it or move forward with it as it is before council votes on it. But I think I don't, in general, want to support changes to the procedures bylaw just for this one thing, because I think it is doable already within what we have. But I think the discussion has raised a few other things that, and there's more, like I read through, you know, the procedures bylaw today just to refresh myself, and there's a few things in there that I think could be slightly updated or changed to better reflect our practice. And our practice has sort of developed over time, I think, because this council as a whole is pretty aligned on how we want to engage with the public and have the public engage with us in these meetings. So I think there may be a few additional changes that we might want to consider. I think I'm happy to support this today so that the item sort of stays on our agenda, bring it to the next meeting of council and decide how we want to proceed with it from there. I think this is a good intent and potentially there's a more fulsome change that we want to consider before we actually direct staff to make changes. Councillor Solda.
So, Madam Mayor, wouldn't it be more to table it and take a look at it? If we're going to look at the procedure bylaw or make a motion that it goes to a meeting that we have to review the procedure bylaw or something like that, instead of passing it at this moment. I'm not saying taking it away, but have this discussion at a different meeting.
Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate those comments. Just so this is a report from the committee of the whole to go to councils through you to Councillor Solda. So it would come to a council meeting where we can have a full, like, just like the mayor said, just have a fulsome discussion on it. I'm willing to keep my amendment motion going and see where it goes from there. And even, again, we can have this discussion at council as well, and council in general can shoot it down if it feels like it. So, yeah, and you're right, Madam Mayor, I think there's other things within the procedure bylaw. I think also what it could have been part of that night would have been a time limit on response. That maybe would have helped the member of the public not have to wait through the response and go through it knowing that there's a 30-second time limit or a 1-minute time limit. So there's a couple things that definitely, but appreciate the comments, appreciate Councillor Solda and where we want to go with this. And yeah, so I'm just willing to keep it going for now and we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Haggard.
That is actually my preference, and I was thinking I would like to do is do a review of the full procedures bylaw all at once, whether we do it now or the next councillor does it. I'm easy either way.
I think we should do it. I think we should do it because I think we're pretty intentional about how we want to engage with the public and what we want our meetings to look like. And I think our meetings run well, we get things done. We also have a good amount of discussion amongst council and we have opportunities for members of the public to engage. I would feel more comfortable with this experienced council firming up our procedures rather than handing it to potentially a brand new council that doesn't have the same experience in making the decisions around how the meeting should run. So we have an amendment moved and seconded right now. Mr. Anderson, there's no comments from members of the public at this point in time, which you are aware, but there will be, there is question period coming up. And as you know, Mr. Anderson, this item, you can ask a question on it later. We'll happily answer if we can. And then this will come to a meeting of council, so you will have an opportunity to speak to it prior. On the amendment, is everyone clear on what's being deleted? It's the last 3 lines. Delete the delete and therefore, and moving forward. Okay. Seeing no other comments on the amendment, all in favor? Opposed? Amendment passes. And any further comments on the motion as amended? That will come to council. Okay, seeing none on the motion as amended, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks everyone for the discussion. And on to item number 4, Adventure Park. Councillor Dame, way more cool.
Procedures bylaw is cool. Come on, come on. Yeah, so this is a topic that obviously we have discussed on a number of occasions for a number of years, and I think that it's safe to say that there is general support from council and a broad portion of the community for an adventure park, but like many things, funding's an issue. And my concern was that we were going to finish this term and not really have put anything firm down as a commitment or direction for the concept of an adventure park. So that's what this is attempting to do. So I'll just go ahead and make the motion. Whereas an adventure park would enhance recreation amenities in the Alberni Valley and support efforts to attract and retain families, young professionals, and health sector workers. And whereas the City of Port Alberni is not in a position to expand recreational amenities under the current funding model, and whereas Alberni Valley residents have demonstrated support for an adventure park through the Alberni Valley Skate Park Association, and whereas the Alberni Valley Skate Park Association has sought support from both the City of Port Alberni and the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District over the past 5 years, during which time construction costs have increased significantly, and whereas the adventure park was estimated to cost $1,650,000 in 2021 and approximately $2,135,000 in 2025, based on the increase in the non-residential building construction price index. Therefore, be it resolved that council request that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District investigate the establishment of a new regional service for the development, operation, and funding of a regional adventure park serving the Alberni Valley, and further that council indicate its willingness in principle to consider making available suitable city-owned land at fair market value and subject to appraisal, due diligence, and future council approval to support the establishment of the regional adventure park. And further, that council consider any related financial implications, including any future Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District requisition and land transaction implications through a future financial plan amendment process beginning no earlier than 2030. And I should have said recommend to council, not as a motion, but we'll make that adjustment.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Further discussion? Thank you so much for bringing this forward. I know that this is something that has had incredible support from members of the public. The community feels very strongly about this project, and I know that certainly there's a hope that much of it will be grant funded, and I also know that that doesn't always come to fruition in the way that we expect. Nonetheless, this is an extremely important project for families, young people, and people of all ages in our community, and it's one that has been very much community-led so far. I would love to see this happen, and I am a little embarrassed that we didn't think earlier to kind of direct this to the ACRD. I think it does make a lot of sense. The second line here, whereas the City of Port Alberni is not in a position to expand recreational amenities under the current funding model, could not be more true. And I mean, we just had multiple speakers tonight talking about ball field fees. We know that those fees have come as a result of current funding models, where the City of Port Alberni is paying, you know, near 100% of the cost of recreation facilities in the Alberni Valley for the benefit of all people who live in the Alberni Valley and not just the City of Port Alberni. We know we can't sustain that long-term into the future. So really appreciate you thinking this through and presenting it, because we need to be shifting new recreation opportunities to the ACRD and having them lead, and then us contributing through that process rather than on our own. So strong support for this. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree 100% with Councillor Dame and Mayor Minions. It's extremely unfortunate that the cost of this adventure park has increased so much since you first brought it forward. It is a great initiative and 100% in support of it since the very beginning. However, it's just like the pool. Since the pool proposed business case was first done, the cost of that new pool has now increased 4 times. Are we ever going to get a new pool? I don't know. But costs are keep going up. They're not going to go down. So either we do it or we don't. But current funding model just doesn't work anymore, where 2/3 of the citizens pay for all the operating recreational costs and all the capital costs of all of our recreational facilities, and 1/3 of the Alberni Valley citizens pay very little, if anything, to this recreation, but they have full access to it. So this is something that we need to work on, and we're trying to work on it, but it's a slow process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
This motion's really exciting in the fact that going back many years, this adventure park was really lobbied here in the city, and nothing came out of it, out of fruition. We might have had a donation here, just add some more cement to or whatever, concrete to our park, and that's it. When you go to other communities and you look around, and small communities, their adventure park just blows me away, how big it is, what you can do in those parks and stuff like that, and with the skateboard and just the kids alone. And they're busy, the families are busy, there's food trucks around there and picnic tables, and the family watches the kids at the adventure park. So there's lots we can do there. So I think this is a great start. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And we'll move on to question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of the committee. For those participating electronically, there are none. Use the raise your hand feature. Mr. Anderson.
I will turn it on, and I will also turn it off for myself. I have to address, and I'm surprised you didn't give me an opportunity to talk, since the reference to some of the speakers on the Councillor Mealy's proposal referenced myself indirectly, but it was pretty clear in my opinion anyway, and I think I deserve to address those problems at the time. However, we'll move on from there. I'm not going to get into it because I was a little confused as to what the motion is, and I did think it was a good idea that we review all the bylaws and all that under that, because I also recognize that they're somewhat outdated. So, but just very briefly, I'll try to be as brief as I can. I want to clarify this, what was referred to as interruption at the last meeting. That was programmed in some ways. That beep, beep, mic's off, mics are on. You cut off 2 people at the mic, not just myself. When you cut that off, you did tell me to sit down, or we may have to take a break in the meeting. That never occurred. I went back to my feet, and then I was told by one of the councillors that, Neil, don't get upset. The reason it was called is because the sound wasn't going out to the members of the public through the website. So it was that was interrupted because. Not because I was, in your opinion, being disruptive. I was voicing a point that I felt very strong about, but because the audio wasn't working properly. And it was, when I watched the replay, that's not the impression I got from the way, Mayor Minions, you put that across. It was because I was causing the disruption.
Mr. Anderson, I will just clarify. I will just clarify that point.
No, you're disrupting me. You can do it after I've finished.
I can do it now.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I did call the recess because you were at the podium. I asked you to sit back down. You would not. That is why I called the recess. I understand Councillor Mealy went over to you after and indicated it was to do with the sound. The sound needed to be fixed as well, but I called the recess because I had a member of the public who was interrupting and would not sit down. That is what this council will do if we need to, because what
You're
we
now
want,
interrupting
Mr.
me.
Anderson,
You're causing it.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, I want to hear you speak. However,
What I'm saying without being interrupted.
thank you.
Turn it back on. So I'm not being out of order. I'm talking calmly.
I'm speaking right now to clarify.
You're preaching. That's a difference of opinion that we have. Let's just settle that. It's a difference of opinion.
It's not a difference of opinion. I'm letting you know why I called the recess. That is a fact.
I agree with you. So thank you for turning it back on. I appreciate that. So I have a right to bring up, well, I mean, the interruption was blamed on myself. I don't think it was shouting and etc. The shouting took place was not as it was conveyed to be. Anyway, on this changes that you're contemplating meeting, the biggest problem I have, it's another extension of you refusing to give the public proper access to say in the way the city is run. It's the final coffin, and it's final nail in the coffin from all the other exclusions you've done to limit the access that the public has to the meetings. We don't have access at the local the council meetings. That's why I wanted to clarification before, because this is the last time we have a chance to talk about it. Now you're going to beat me because I'm not asking a question. So I'm still limited to what I can do. So my main point is, someone gets up, brings a point of view across, I mentioned this before. They may be wrong on the fact that they don't have all the information, but they're legitimate and they're doing what they think is right. I agree, and I said that. You congratulated one councillor for saying that. I said the very same thing at the beginning of the meeting. You just ignored me. So someone gets up and they speak. I know what you're thinking right now, but I'll make it through it. They give their opinion about something, a policy or a practice. They're not necessarily disagreeing, they're just making it based on what they believe. You were right, and you've done this in the past. You're right when it's a new person getting up to the mic, and you reinforce that again. It's not normal practice to answer questions. That's not what the bylaws say. But you do the right thing by saying, I'll give them a grace period and I'll inform them after they finish speaking. That's great. But that doesn't mean that it's customary for you to answer every question. You've also cut people off by saying, we don't take answers to this question. There's a mix and match of this thing, so it deserves clarification. That's a positive thing about this thing. At least bring it through. The way it's being choreographed by the button and all that is another question. So the speaker gets up, sits down, they've had their 5 minutes, and then after all the speakers are finished, you go into this new section where the council can now talk about what was brought up at the public input period, and they can pretty well critique it. You know, through their questions and through their answers to questions, which isn't really an answer. I'm not sure if that still is or not anymore. But the point is, would we have a right to get up and respond to the questions that council brings forward now that we're out of public input period, and then when it's in this new period? Would the speaker have a chance to get up and say, well, I don't agree with the response and the answers? Or do we just have to sit back and it's left that the council is going to have to be accurate? They're the council, they have to be. So there is debate. There is
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to try to answer the question you just asked. There is not a specific procedures bylaw drafted around this concept yet, so we can't answer that today. That said, appreciate the question. I think that will help form the discussion if we move forward with this.
And that's all I'm trying to do is, I understand that is going to be looked at again. I'm just concerned that we adopt something like we came to this meeting about, and that is going to create a lot of dissension in the fact that it's not going to avoid debate amongst the issues. It's going to it will help council in convincing the general public that what they've heard from the speaker is maybe not true or not accurate. And that happens. You have the last say, and we have no way of saying, no, we disagree with your responses. Or they might very well say, well, thanks for the information. I'm glad you told us what we haven't considered.
Councillor Mealy.
Thank you,
You don't,
Madam.
you're making a face
sorry.
like you don't.
Mr. Anderson, I've gone to Councillor Mealy now. It is my role to chair the meetings. It is not your role to interrupt me when I've gone to a councillor.
All going out to the public, but they can't hear my response. They hear you, I'm interrupting you. Not the fact that you.
You are interrupting me. I've called on Councillor Mealy to speak. We would like to answer the questions that you have asked. That's our role right now.
Well, you should have asked me why you not asking a question or something. You just called, you just pressed your buzzer and cut me off. And then
Councillor
said,
Mealy.
Said I'm interrupting you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it. Thank you to the member of public, Mr. Anderson. I appreciate that. First of all, I'd like to apologize to you, Madam Mayor, and to Mr. Anderson. It happened very quickly, but I did think that we were shutting the meeting down because of the audio issue. So I apologize for any embarrassment I may have brought council and the member of public by stating that. And that was a problem at the time that had to be fixed. So anyway, so just want to go back to Mr. Anderson's question. We will be discussing this at council again, but what I will say is that it is a part of the discussion during the meeting, if it goes forward, part of the discussion in the meeting, and there still is question period at the end as well. So if anything does come back at the end, you can come back, or the member of public can come back to the question period at the end of the meeting as well to ask more questions on anything that's happened during the meeting. But again, this is just a start. Again, as Madam Mayor has stated, looking at the entire procedures bylaw and other options and other opportunities to tweak and make things better. So it's not just for the committee of the whole. There's other parts of this that we'll probably look at the time. So.
And I understand that. Is this on again or off again? I don't know. So I understand that, and I'm hoping that it comes back in a better form, because I'm interested in seeing something constructive coming out of this. Not what I feel in some ways is a manipulation of getting more control and less control for the public. So I'm going to pursue it. And I get the proper response again from Mayor Minions. I try hard to be nice to you, but it's very hard. Very hard.
I would not agree with that statement, but. Would somebody like to move adjournment? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor
Turn my own
Dame.
mic
On the
off.
motion, all in favor. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.